Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Peace Podcast. Today, I have the wonderful Miss Tundra Morton. I'm going to pass it over and let her introduce herself, and then we'll get started.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Carrie, for this invitation. I'm looking forward to this conversation today. I am Tanja Morton. I am an educator for life. So I've been in education since 1994, but I've evolved into out of becoming an educator, I'm now a self-care development coach. And so I work with teachers, principals, even parents, and this year, students on how to protect, practice, and prioritize their own self care by their own definition.
Awesome. And so it is very fitting that we talk about self-care on a podcast about peace because we know that, you know, internal peace can't be had without really having that self-care aspect in it. And so let's start with what was your journey to understanding the real significance of self-care?
Yeah, so I guess I can like reverse start here and then reverse engineer backwards because I just made this statement to my husband and one of my dear friends just a couple of days ago. I said, life up until this season of my life, life felt like a job and not joy. So now life feels like joy and not a job. And so life always felt like work outside of work. Like working, being a teacher was one thing, but working at happiness, working at peace, working at, all those things that nurture you and make you feel nourished and replenished emotionally and mentally, it still felt like work. And so that had been my experience. I really didn't know what real self-care was. I knew externally what I thought it looked like, what society says, the bubble baths, the pedicures, and, massages and, even vacations, but everything seemed to point to caring for yourself at the breaking point and not making caring for yourself a regular practice, like a daily doing. And so when I learned what real self-care was, real self-care is a part of my daily life. It's what I do for myself. It's not a response to burnout. It's a more proactive approach to keeping and cultivating your joy so that life doesn't feel like a job.
And what was it that prompted you to say, okay, I need to work on my self-care beyond the fact that life felt like a job, which is a big thing. But like, at what point were you like, okay, self-care is the answer to this, and you started really figuring out how to make that happen for yourself?
Yeah, because I was just absolutely miserable. I had all the things on the outside that made for a happy life, the husband, the home, the children, the career that was thriving, like all of the things on the outside look like joy. Like that looks like somebody who is really got it together, and so it did. It looked like that on the outside, but on the inside, it was the complete opposite. And I remember one morning, my children were in elementary school, and I remember one morning having to stop and get gas before, I hopped on the interstate to drop one off at the lower elementary, one off at the upper elementary, and then I was teaching at the middle school. And so I was timing myself. I'm like, okay, I'm about to run out of time, just rush because I prided myself in saying, oh, I hit the ground running because there was no pause. Like I would push play on my day as soon as I open my eyes,
Mm.
which is the opposite now. I hit pause. When I open my eyes, I do not start. I settle myself, I check in with me. But during that season, I didn't have those skills. I didn't have the tools to do that. And so every morning was a rat race. Every morning was just, me hitting it, grinding, like, even now I don't even like that word. But I stopped to get gas, and the Pepsi delivery man caught my attention, and they were smiling, they were laughing, they were joking with the other customers and the cashier, and I couldn't stop looking at them for what seemed like, 15, 20 minutes was probably like 15 or 20 seconds, but I'm like, they have something that I don't.
Mm.
So being jealous of the Pepsi delivery man that day was really what sparked the like, so what is it that is missing? Like, what did you see in their interaction that you don't have in your own life? You have all these degrees, you have, like I said, all the other things that pointed to happiness, like points toward you got life together, you got this figured out. But I found myself getting back in my truck and just tears, streaming down my face because I'm like, I'm jealous of their joy. Like I don't have that joy. And they weren't, I said, they're not rushing, like they're not, oh, we're at the Shell. Now we got to get over to a Marathon. We got to go over here to, the Double Quick. They were like present in the moment, enjoying it. And then, and there was 7:30 in the morning. And I'm like, it's just at 7:30 and you're already frustrated.
Mm. Yeah. And I think, you're speaking the truth of a lot of parents, right? Like it feels like your calendar is just filled with the next place that you have to take your kid to and the next place that you have to be. And, you're like tired when you wake up, ready for bedtime as soon as you open your eyes in the morning because you're so exhausted. And I think that really speaks to the idea that society has of success will put you in a space where you're doing that thing that you were just saying, like where you're grinding all the time and you're trying to like get to the next level, right? But what you're saying is that even societal's representation of self-care isn't actually self-care.
No.
So and you mentioned the bubble baths, and that's the one that always comes up. They're like, "Take time for yourself, take a bath." And I'm like, if you're in the tub and all you're doing is ruminating on all the things that you have to do when you get out of the tub, then how much self-care are you actually doing? So
Yeah.
when you're talking about participating in self-care and teaching other people about self-care, how does that look different than what society deems to be the bubble baths of self-care?
Yeah. So I start by painting that picture. And I place myself in with my feet. I told them I have been getting a pedicure, feet in the bowl and tears streaming down my face
Mm,
because I'm thinking about I got this moment, but I gotta walk back into a life
mm,
that is unfulfilling.
mhm,
I have been getting a massage, and my massage therapist will say, Tanja, I've been working on this spot 20 minutes. Like, you are super tense. So I have been on a cruise and mad at the person I was on the cruise with 3 out of the 4 days.
mm,
So I paint the picture, place myself in the thing that's
mhm.
supposed to be relaxing, rejuvenating, calming, though that time that I'm supposed to be really enjoying myself, and I'm completely miserable. And it's because, and then like I said, it's the daily thing. And so because I learned how to practice the self-care that I practice starts before I get out of my bed in the morning.
Mm,
And it is consistent. And so because I began to practice a real self-care, and I will like say what that looks like in training, now when I go and get the pedicure, I'm truly refreshed
mm,
and I'm happy. Like when I go and get the massage, I'm really already relaxed. I'm just, I've gotten to the point where I enjoy looking back over my day, being still a wife, still a mom, in school, running, got a business. Like I think I got more to do now than I did even then when I was like completely stressed out.
yeah.
But the difference is I do something for me every day because when we get to the breaking point, it's because we feel bitter, we feel resentful, we feel unappreciated because we just go, 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 go for everybody else. We're running on E. We've trained ourselves how to do that. Like we are running on empty. And so we train ourselves to keep going until we can't go anymore. And then now we're feeling like, oh, nobody acknowledges me, nobody appreciates me, nobody approves of me, nobody accepts, I feel taken advantage of, I feel overworked, like all of these emotions, like all of these things just come to the surface. But now, because I practice self-care on a daily basis, I'm always able to look back in my day and see something I did for myself. Yeah, I did all this for everybody else, but what did I do for me? And there's never a day that I don't do something for myself. Because when I first, wake up in the morning, I center myself and I ask myself, like, Tanja, how are you doing?
Mm.
Like, how are you feeling? Like, what do you need today? I know you might have had an hour workout plan, but will 30 minutes be okay today? Like, what do you have the emotional bandwidth for,
Mm.
considering your schedule? Or you might have had a 30-minute walk. So do you think you need to do water aerobics and dance today? Do you think you'll need a little longer workout? Because what I've learned is taking care of my health is a spiritual responsibility. Taking care of myself physically, emotionally, and mentally, that is a spiritual practice. And that is my spiritual responsibility to take care of myself. So I'm thinking about how I feel. I mean, I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about. I'm checking my heart to see how I feel. And then, like, what does my body need? And I make plans to address what I need before I start doing anything for anybody else.
Oh my goodness, that is so, so good. And so you said a couple of things there that I want to tap back into. So when you were talking about having that to-do list, right? Like I envisioned in my brain, because I gotta have a visual representation. I envisioned in my brain like that to-do list, and then it's like slathered with concrete, the weight of your feelings on top of the to-do list. So it's like not only am I carrying this heavy burden, right, of having to do all of these things, but now I have the emotions that are attached to it, and they're negative emotions. I have the resentment and all of that. And now I'm carrying that extra weight on top of what I was already carrying. So I've literally made the load heavier by not checking in with myself. And
Yes.
so that's so good because we don't think about how our thinking adds to the
Yes.
abundance of burdens that we're carrying. The other thing that you said was, you look at your day now and you're doing more, but it's almost like you're more appreciative of what you're doing as opposed to looking at it in a negative light because of checking in with yourself.
Yes.
And that leads me to the last part, and I really want you to elaborate on this a little bit because I think that sometimes when society gives us a list of things to do for whatever that thing is, so like this is the go-to workout, this is the go-to diet, this is the go-to self-care routine, they forget that you're an individual person, right? So the actual title of that thing is self-care. And it doesn't look the same for everybody because you have to tap into yourself to actually decide what you might need. So, how does that work? Like, how do you tap into yourself to decide whether you need the aerobics or the walk or whatever it is? Like, how do you know what your self needs?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question because that's exactly what I teach. I don't give them a scripted like list of things to do to care for yourself. What I encourage is that you consider you.
Mm.
You and that I remember the first time I said, Tanja, I love the way you consider yourself. Because I'm always considering other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I will take a drive to go to a workout, drive back home, like carving out that time to do that for myself means a lot to me. And so the benefits of now somebody else that might be totally different. And that's what I told them. You have to build a relationship with yourself. Because that was when I first got started, like all I knew was what I didn't want.
Mm.
I didn't know what I want, but that's a great place to start. Like I knew I did not want to be miserable. I did not want to wake up to a life that felt like work. I did not want life to feel like a job.
Mm.
And so I'm like, because I tell everybody, movement is so important. That the dopamine from moving your body like has so many benefits. But you have to figure out your workout vibe. So some people like to go into the gym. They don't want to be bothered. They just want to do a workout on their own. Me, by being a teacher, educators, we love to talk or whatever. If I go to the gym and start talking to somebody on a topic, that we both, that resonates with us both, whether it's relationships, whether it's God, like whatever it is, if it's, I end up standing in there talking and not working out because I like to talk to people. So I prefer group exercises. I prefer to show up to a place and the structure is in front of us and telling us what to do, and then we get out of there. Like that's
Mhm.
it. So I don't have to think about, oh, do I need to work my arms today, my legs? Like, I just show up for strength training. I just show up for line dancing. I just show up for Zumba. I love to be around people. So that feels that my need for a connection. I love music. So music, just totally, because what your self-care practice or your activities need to do is you need to find a way to turn it off. I never knew how to turn it off. I was always on. Like, I'm like, Tanja, this is not healthy. This is not realistic. Like, you can't always be on. But I was that person that even when I was supposed to be resting, my mind was still racing.
Mm.
And so I'm like, okay, what turns my mind off in a healthy way? So music, like the music. So I'm concentrating on the dance steps. I'm concentrating on the strength training. She has music. It's a routine. So know your workout vibe. And it's even with then the more you learn about yourself, you're like, okay, so for me, I have really, really good friends. It's not necessarily for me to talk to them on the phone every single day. We might not talk every week. I mean, we check in on each other, but just knowing what I need. But I just went to brunch with a friend, and she didn't know my husband had surgery. And and she's and I've been friends since 2011. And so I, emailed her and I told her, I said, check your email. Because when she sent me a text and just telling me how proud she was of me. And she said, not for the reasons you think. And she was naming all those reasons. But, it was just really a heartfelt, I see you, I care about you. You were heard today, you were seen today. Um, I created this container that you could just be Tanja today. Like it was that type of heartfelt sentiment. But I told her, I said, my drive home, I thanked her, but I said, what saddened me is like, you didn't know my husband had surgery. I said, now I know that you're a superintendent. Like I know that, I have a business, but we promised that we wouldn't use busy as an excuse not to connect because connection matters to me,
Mm.
real connection. And you and I've had these conversations before. So, but I want the people in my life, I want them to, because this is what matters to me. The people who are not just on my front row, the people who are on that stage, back behind stage, helping me to get ready to step out on this stage and do life every day, those people who encourage me, inspire me, pray for me, I want them involved in my life emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. I don't want it to feel like when we see each other, we just checking in. So what you been up to? Oh yeah, this happened. That surface. I don't. So self-care. What do I need to do so that the opposite happens?
Mm.
That we're real time knowing what's going on with each other in the midst of our schedules. So I told her, I said, hey, I'm gonna call more. She said, yes, we're gonna do better. Like, so we're gonna call. We already planned the next time. Like when I go, my husband and I are gonna go visit her and her husband, and we're going out on the lake. We've planned our trip to Nashville. Like we're just gonna do a girls thing, just us. So we had to, and that's not, a lot of people like get offended It's not that we think we're too busy, but we do have very full lives, and we are the type of women who are very and not ambitious, but we want to be all that God has called us to be. So we're dreaming, we're planning, we're going after our goals, and then we have our families, and then you have those lifestyles, life and things that you didn't even expect, to come up.
Yes.
So you have to put it on paper, because you can say like, oh, I really want to see my friend, and it's 2023, and you see it's 2030, and you're still saying, and your child has gone to a whole nother grade level, from elementary to high school. You're like,
Yep.
where did high school happen? And I read this book, and it said, if you don't take time out for your friends, you'll look up and they'll be gone.
Mm.
And that is the truth. And it's not
Yes.
because there was a falling out or anything. You just drifted apart because there was no intentional time, energy, and attention given to the relationship. So for me, self-care is not just solo. I like to be with people who add to my joy, and not just the text out, of course, text to connect, but the real connection, I need to hear your voice. I need to see your face. I need to, you know what I'm saying? And so that I get people that once you build a relationship with yourself, you'll know what kind of workouts you want to. You know how much time you need to spend alone and how much time you need to spend with others. You know when it's time to go on a vacation, whether it's the weekend, a week, or maybe that's not for you, but you're like, okay, but this is a Saturday, I do nothing. Like, you begin to learn yourself, and you'll know exactly what you need, but you won't know what you need until you ask yourself.
Ooh, you said so much there. Okay, so I love, love, love these, like, it's almost like there's buckets, right? Like, there's me with the visual again.
I
It's
love it.
like it's like you have, I have to move my body because that's self-care. That's a bucket. But there's a broad array of ways that you can make that happen. And then you have, the relational bucket, and that might look different for different people too. And
Mhm.
you can't do any of those until you've actually checked in with you to see what you need and what you want. And the world will should all over everything you're doing. So
Yeah.
when you think about, like, the workout one really resonated with me because, and I said this on my last podcast, we were talking about body image, but I used to get a calendar, write down what body part I was going to punish that day because it didn't look the way that I wanted it to look, no matter what I was doing, right? And so I had this whole vision in my head of, you should work out this body part and work out for this long. And I would hold myself to that. It didn't matter how tired I was. It didn't matter how sore I was. It didn't matter how much I did not feel like doing it. And guess what happened? I hated working out. I
Yes.
did it because I knew that I should do it, but I hated it. And so one day I just said, why am I doing this? Like, why am I putting myself through misery just to say that I did my workout today, right? And it was almost like, well, I have proof that even if my body doesn't look perfect, I'm doing the work, right? It was like a mental thing. So I walked into the gym one day and I just said, how do you feel like moving your body today? No plan before ahead of time. I just knew I was going to go to the gym that day. No real time limit, no real constraints on what I was doing. I blocked out the shoulds of the world. Like, even if I want to look this certain way, right now, today, I'm going to focus on what feels healthy and what is going to feel like a good way to move my body. So
Yeah.
that day, I got on the stair stepper. The next day, I did a HIIT workout. One day I just went in and did strength training, which I'm the type, it's so funny because this is an attest to why you have to check in with yourself, because Tanja likes working out with people. I am the exact opposite. Got my headphones in, don't talk to me, don't stop me, get off my machine. I need to go. Like, and it's not because I'm trying to hurry up and get through the workout. It's just because
Mm,
that's my time to connect with me. And I don't want to create those connections externally. So it's funny that yours is the exact opposite because it really does speak to if you don't check in with yourself, you'll be doing the workout that somebody else said you should. You'll be in
yeah.
those friendships banking on the shoulds of the world. And um, something else, Tanja and I talk. We are close, and so like when we have our conversations, I feel like all those conversations could be podcasts. Um,
Yes.
but it's interesting because we haven't known each other on this level that long. But something that
Mm-mm.
we identified very early on in our relationship was how rich the relationship is. And
Yeah.
Tanja loves the word rich because it speaks to, you know, if the relationship is surface level, then it's not feeding you. It's not self-care. You're just doing it because you feel like you should. If the
Yes.
workout is forced, it's not a rich workout. It's not even going to produce the results that you want it to because you're only doing it because you feel like you should. And there are so many
Mm,
times where I feel like people choose the self-care option that has been shoulded on them as opposed
mm,
to just checking in and saying, what feels good, right? Like
yeah.
what would feel good to me? Um,
Mhm.
so what about those people who don't really know themselves well enough to even do the check-in? Like what would you say to those people?
And all it takes is, and and I want to, before I answer that,
Yeah.
I want to speak to the workout, and none of those ladies I talk to outside of class, none of them. Like, I see them in class, and that's it.
Yep.
It's just, I'm in class with a group of women who like what I like when it comes to working out. So I get to be around like-minded people,
Mm,
listening to good music, burning some calories, smiling, like, because I drive, it's a 25-minute drive. So just say I spend an hour getting to and from the workout, and then I'm in the workout an hour. So that's 2 hours that I give myself. And it's not grudging. It's not like, oh God, I don't feel, because I know that when I walk away, last week they added a new line dance, and it's a dance I've been trying to learn how to do. And I smiled all the way home. I even listened to it once I got in my car, and like I had left the workout, but I was still in the workout in my mind. And I walked through the house with this huge smile on my face. And my husband was like, "What's going on?" I said, "That workout made me so happy." At the end of the day, because I get up real early, so my end of the day is like wrapping up like really early. But that was at the end of the day, and I was just so happy. And it was like the dopamine hit that I got from that, it just lingered. So I know what does that for me, but it took time. And so for those people, and that's a perfect segue into it, the perfect segue into people who don't know what you like, give it time. You have to say, I sat with myself, even if you just start with 5 minutes. Even if you don't know what you don't want, start what you do want, start with what you don't want. And just say, and you know what? In the mornings, like, I don't pick up my phone. And because that right there, like, sends your day into a tailspin. Like, I'm not checking Facebook, Instagram, like any of those things. When I get up in the morning, I'm listening to something that is going to nurture my thinking, my intellect. Like, I'm letting positive words, and it could be somebody else's, it could be mine. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hear myself say something positive to me at the beginning of every day. And so if you keep giving yourself that, you keep giving yourself that time to nurture yourself mentally, emotionally, physically. Eventually, it's going to come to, you have a conversation with somebody else, and it's like, oh, I like doing this. I'm like, I never thought about that. I may try, you know what I'm
yep.
saying? But
Yep.
it's the time carved out. It's with yourself. I had a friend who went to a conference in California. She texted me and she said, I'm going to try to get to the ocean. She said, I'll text you and let you know, like it's a pretty, I don't know, I got the conference going on. I said, well, consider this a self-care nudge. When we don't live near the Pacific Ocean and like we don't live near the beach, like being out there, like we can't go out there without the experience. I said, if you want to see the sunset over the Pacific Ocean while you're in California, go do it. Like, don't leave and regret you didn't carve out time. That evening, she sent me a video. She was riding the bike on the beach. She had a surfboard. She took a picture at sunset. Like, not only did she do the sunset, she did all these other things at the beach that we don't normally get to do. But it's so easy to prioritize other things. And like you said, society would tell you should do this, you should do that. But the things that we regret, and we've seen all these studies at people at the end of their life when they are interviewed and they are questioned, the things that they regret the most are not that they didn't get this promotion, they didn't buy this house, they didn't buy this car, they didn't have all these things. They regret the fact that they didn't take time out for themselves and to connect with other people. Those are the top regrets.
Yep. And
So
that,
I can live, my mentor says it perfectly. He said, I can live with a failure because I can bounce back from that. He said, I just can't live with regret.
yeah, yeah. And I think sometimes we wait too long, right? To think about, oh, well, I should have done that. And those studies are a testament to that, right? And they really are those little winks to us to say, hey, don't wait until the end of your life to regret this thing. Turn it around right now. Like, think about how you can make it different right now. Um, and so that leads me to my final question. So we talked about checking in with yourself, right? And so once they have checked in with themselves, what's the next step to making a change right now? So I checked in with myself. I know what I like. I know what I need. I know what type of things I want to do. Now what? Like, how do I find time? How do I find, like, what do I do next?
Yes. So you have to prioritize it. You have to prioritize the practice and you have to protect it.
Mm,
Things are going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like you wake up, a child is sick. For me, an elderly parent may need you to take them somewhere. So I may have water aerobics scheduled, but because I have to leave during that time to pick dad up and take him, I may have to do a walk that evening. But practicing, prioritizing, and protecting whatever it is that you choose to do self-care, like that is the formula. Because the thing is, and being able to stand at the end of your day, at the end of your week, and look back and say, I considered me, that you
mm,
pinpoint times. And it's like an emotional bank account. It's like over time, like it's their bank account is growing and growing and growing. And then when life happens and something pulls out of that, you have to make a withdrawal. It doesn't put you in the red, like it doesn't totally snatch everything out of it. But that's what happens. We run on E, we're running on empty. We're in the red, we're in the negative. And then when something happens in life, oh, it takes us out because we
mm,
don't have anything emotionally to give. And so the benefits of it, it's not just to say, oh, I practice self-care like for a cute hashtag or anything like that. It is for you to emotionally and mentally, physically brace yourself for when life starts life. For that, and then also, I don't know anybody that doesn't want to get to the end of their life and be proud of the
mm,
way that they, I talk about being 85 all the time. And so my 85-year-old self is going to be really proud of the way the 75, 65, next year on my birthday, 55, because I can't do anything about 45. That was 10 years ago. I
mm-hmm.
can't do anything about 35. That was 20 years ago. I can do something now. And who I'm going to be at 55 in a few months, 65 in 10 years, 75 in 20 years. Like I can be working on her.
Mm,
And I want that version of me, which she's on the inside of me right now, cheering for me, hoping, praying that I'll make the right, they're rooting for me, everything. But I have to daily decide that I matter.
Ooh.
And then I have to treat myself accordingly.
Oh, that
It's
was
a
good.
day thing. Yeah.
That's like the mic drop right there. Like, you can't just do it for everybody else. You have to do it for you too, you know? All right.
And
So,
even though I'm a self-care coach, I wake up every day and decide. It's
yes.
not like a one and done. It's not like, oh, I got this self-care. Every day I have to wake up and decide to take care of
Yes.
myself.
Yes. And you can't do that until you've created that real strong relationship with yourself. Like, I have this strong connection and relationship with myself. And because of that, I'm going to do those P's that you just said, because that is how I take care of me. That is how I cultivate that relationship with me. So before we
Yes.
go, if people want to work with you or find you, how do they do that?
Yes. So on TanjaMorton.com, everything is under that. And I'm only on Facebook, intentionally Tanja. And that's how you find me online right now.
Perfect. So thank you so, so much. That was so good. And I hope that all of you listeners got something from this. And if you want more and you find yourself wanting more techniques, certainly look her up, because amazing, amazing. Like, even just the conversations we have on a friend level, I walk away full and feeling like she's given me some nugget. So definitely reach out and work with her if you feel led to do so.